road trip thoughts for you. Well, actually, I had this thought like a few weeks ago while I was driving somewhere local, not a road trip, but to kind of elaborate a little bit on this idea of mental load if you're in like a committed relationship and if you have children. We hear a lot about how the mental load falls on the default parent, who typically is the mother, and that's not necessarily always because the man just, bustles off and ignores what's going on at home, but usually because, especially for different stages in children's lives, they go from one parent to the other and then back, and very often the mother is the center of their universe. And I know my son will sometimes walk right past my husband to ask me to do something when I'm busy and my husband is not. So there's some of that naturally just in there, right? Sometimes you're just naturally the default parent. The way that I came up in my mind to explain this mental load to people, particularly to partners who maybe don't seem like they're as helpful or don't seem like they understand as much about what falls on the default parent or on the wife, is like this. As a woman, as a mother, and somebody who is taking care of the house, even working a full-time job, if you're not a stay-at-home mom, if you're a working mother, you have your cup, right? And you have a certain amount that it gets filled up every day, and you have to pour that into your children. You have to pour that into, whatever pets you have, and you have to pour that into keeping a house to some sort of a standard of, safety and health. And then usually there's not a whole lot left for yourself. And so in that way, we rely on our partners to have enough in their cup to then fill our cup more, or again, to give a little refill, and give us enough to take and pour into ourselves, and then pour into them and the relationship. Or pour into them in the relationship first is what usually happens, and then whatever's left over gets to be ourselves. So if they're standing there basically in the soup line, right, with their hands out, asking to be poured into, but they don't pour into you, then you're pouring out into them as well, and now you really have nothing left for yourself. And then the next day it just starts all over again, and it starts all over again, and eventually you kind of end up in this like debt of, now I'm trying to pour out into everybody, and then I'm trying to pour out into my partner, and I'm lucky if I get a drop out, and then there's still nothing left for me, and I really need to replenish. And so I think it's really important for our counterparts to understand that keeping that safe space for us and keeping that emotional safety for us is this pouring into our cup, so that we have enough to pour back to them, and also we have enough to pour into ourselves, so that the next day we get more in our cup and we can pour out more, and we maybe need the same amount from them, but then we can pour more back into them. So if it helps to like take actual cups and do this demonstration, by all means, please do. I think it would be awesome, and I might try to do that one day if I remember, but we'll know how that goes. So let me know if that helped.